The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast ServiceNow series. Our guest today is Nick Friedman. Nick is the founder and president at Templar Shield. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Nick, lots to cover, but let's start with yourself, please, as we do all of our guests. Could you give us a brief overview of your background in technology, from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and take us through the sort of origin story behind the foundation of Templar Shield?
Sure. I'd like to think it's a bit of a different story than most people in my position. I started out in banking. So after school, started working for Wells Fargo. I was really in their lending division around audits and controls and control testing and control test validations and very manual based exercises. I remember walking into my office every day in my cubicle, I should say, in the office. And I'd have, 1.5 foot tall stacks just all the way across my cubicle with the little opening for my desktop. And they were about 1.5 inch, 2-inch thick legal paper files that, I'd have to review. And I was on a large team of people doing this manually. After a couple months, I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so I started building out complex Excel docs, wrote a couple software programs to kind of do some testing in those Excel documents, and really just automated a very manual process with some rudimentary office tools to be more effective and efficient, just because I couldn't stand the tediousness of all the work. Long story short, I ended up moving through and from an actual auditor, do business analyst roles, into management by automating that program and training a lot of other people through the company I worked for at Wells Fargo, and then moved through a few other financial services institution, training people how to build these processes and automate their programs. And so I did that from 2000 to about 2009. In 2009, I promptly got out of financial services when we had the giant financial collapse due to the mortgage crisis here in the United States, and started doing some contracting, right? Worked bringing similar types of control testing programs and helping aerospace companies build these types of teams themselves. So started with Goodrich Aerospace Systems, 2009, helped automate, digitize the control programs for all of the aircraft surface areas and landing gear. Ended up getting moved over to Boeing. And then after that project ended, started doing something similar, helping utility in California build out their risk and compliance team. Ended up building that up to 40 plus people and started automating those programs. And so, I was very much end user focused myself and helping people improve processes. Through those last couple of years in aerospace and energy, I was working through an IT services firm. And after, several years in that industry, about 5 years there, I got a unique opportunity where the IT services firm I worked for decided to walk away from the risk and compliance and security functions of these programs we were building. And at the time, the team got shrunk down to about 26 people. And I had an opportunity to make a move. I just didn't know what that opportunity was that was staring me in the face. And so I find that it's very important in life for people to have mentors. And this was one of those critical junctions where one of my mentors said, hey, you've got a team of a couple dozen great people, and the IT company you're working for is going to step away from this risk and compliance and security type programs. He said, you should start a company. I said, that's the last thing in the world I wanted to do. I really enjoyed my freedom, being an independent contributor and a high performer. I was great at teaching and training people on how to be more effective themselves. But I had heard and read too many books on the horror stories of entrepreneurship. But after several meetings with him, he kind of made me think it was a good idea. And so I sat down with the team and told everyone, hey, we're all going to be sunset here at the end of the year on this particular project. Do you guys want to start an organization, right? And start offering this as a small boutique team. So several of those people started a firm with me. At the time, I told my mentor, I'm like, hey, everyone's on board. Now I need funding. How do I go about that? He asked me, how much money do you think you need? I just threw out a random number, $1 million, and he wrote me a check, right? And so it was just the largest vote of confidence anyone had ever had into me. And when I asked him why he did it, he said, I'm investing in you because you train people, you care about people. You're not just focused on promotions in your roles, and those are the kind of people that should be leaders. And so I was very humbled by that experience. And so I started Templar, right, in 2013. And the whole idea was this is the last thing I wanted to do. I wasn't the only I can do it. No one else can figure this out. I've got the magic bullet. It was very much, I'm blessed and fortunate enough to have a team and an angel investor behind me to take the next step in the journey, which is how I got here.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm glad you talked about that juncture where you were deciding what to do and the reluctance, because it's important for other potential entrepreneurs to hear that there's never the perfect time, but perfection is the enemy of progress. And sometimes you just got to take the leap. I know from speaking to you on several occasions that the journey has been an incredible one thus far and lots of success along the way. So let's jump forward to where you are today as a business. For those listening who are not familiar with Templar Shield, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
Yeah, I think mission's the key word in everything you said there. My team and I are focused on providing high value, quality delivery work, particularly in areas that impact people's lives the most. And those areas are, critical infrastructure, banking and financial services, federal, state, public sector, as well as utilities in those areas, transportation, things that people leverage every day of their life, not just our niceties, right? And the reason is, in the family I grew up in Arizona, my family had one of the largest families in the state to have the highest concentration of military professionals. I mean, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, cousins. I did not serve. Right? Most of my family have. And this is my way of contributing back, and it's my mission, right? It's my purpose. And when I started the firm, ServiceNow wasn't even in the risk and security and compliance domain. It was really an IT service management perspective on their platform. And even when eventually they did come out with risk, it was really IT risk. And that was, I think, 2015-ish. It wasn't until 2020 when, in my humble opinion, ServiceNow really became an enterprise risk management platform. They rolled out business resiliency, business continuity, disaster recovery, advanced risk assessments for not only IT risk, but operational risk, market risk. They had a strong cybersecurity program. And I know recently they've been working with partners to develop identity and access management solutions in the platform as well. And those are the areas we focus in. Prior to becoming a ServiceNow partner, we focused a lot with the RSA stack, IBM stack, security suite tools like Tenable, Rapid7, Nessus, and had to work with the hodgepodge of tools to create automated ERM programs. And so within ServiceNow, now we can do that all on one platform. It's a beautiful thing. We do not focus and we do not offer services in IT service management, HR, CSM, any of the large areas that ServiceNow focuses in there, competing with other companies. We are specifically enterprise risk management advisors. I like to say that ServiceNow is, and their partner ecosystem is like brain surgeons, right? It's where you collect data and store data, as well as disseminate and contribute to data enrichment for enterprises. And there's a lot of brain surgeon partners out there, and we are not one of them. I look at risk and security as the vital organs of an enterprise, and we are cardiologists here at Templar Shield. I tell people if you need an army, you need to occupy a small country. Those are going to be the large GSIs, the big four, big five consulting firms, right? My team is the Navy SEALs of security, risk, and compliance. High degree of efficiency, 0 degree of failure, small tactical strike teams, very senior people. And so from that perspective, we're all here for two reasons. One, the same reason I started the firm, right? To create a home for an employee-centric team that like delivering at a high degree of quality and like working with very seasoned professionals. And number two, focusing on that mission of supporting, our neighbors, our fellow citizens, right? Both in the country and across the world around securing critical infrastructure. So energy and utilities, oil and gas, transportation, telecommunications, critical manufacturing, public sector, and banking.
Nicholas, you talked about the evolution of Templar Shield and also the evolution of ServiceNow's risk offerings and how it's really become far more advanced in recent years. Templar Shield are still a platform agnostic organization, so you're going in to speak to prospective customers to fix the problem first and foremost, and then assessing what's the most suitable way to do so and why. But in many cases, you're seeing time and time again, ServiceNow is becoming the technology platform of choice. What are you hearing from your customers, and why is it that ServiceNow seems to be outperforming some of the other options that are currently available?
I think there's three things to consider in there to, unpack that question. First is when you look at IT service management, right? Things that we don't do, where you're opening tickets, opening issues, getting them fixed, order new laptop servers, etc. It's a very, very linear product-based process. When you look at risk and security, it's nothing like that at all. Tools only automate these programs, and programs can be ran manually or automated. And the manual program approach is what I call a BPFC consulting engagement, which stands for business process, regulatory or risk frameworks, and the content associated with those. And so when you look at how companies are identifying risk, assessing risk, treating risk, or mitigating risk, both IT risk, cybersecurity risk, resiliency risk, market risk, what have you, there should be a specific risk assessment methodology that they have. And that's where my team comes in with expert experience to help them assess and mature that program. When you look into the tools that automate those programs, historically, as I mentioned earlier, you had a hodgepodge of tools you had to integrate. But what we're seeing right now is a maturation of the technology automation in enterprise risk management. And I'll define that by three components. One's GRC, the other's IRM, and the third is ERM. And so GRC stands for governance, risk, and compliance. And that industry started in early 2000s around the advent of Sarbanes-Oxley, which was designed to provide more transparency in financial institutions and their compliance and control programs. Later, that has matured in very recent years into IRM, which is for integrated risk management. Now, many will tell you it's just a new acronym, and I disagree. Fundamentally, I think it's a shift from compliance-driven business decisions to risk-driven business decisions. And to calculate risk effectively, to be able to see around the corner, an enterprise needs an integrated platform. They need to have asset inventory, both IT, people, processes, hardware, software, OT, what have you. And they need to be able to create a risk assessment calculation that anytime any of those factors change, the risk score changes. And you need a single unified platform to be able to do that, that offers first line of defense, all the ITSM, HAMSAM, HR, CSM solutions, with what my company does, second line of defense, cybersecurity, risk management, compliance management, as well as vendor risk and business continuity. And third line of defense, which is auditing, internal auditing of programs of all of those areas I just mentioned. Now, this is a fundamental shift, and companies are finally starting to see the value. Even if there were no compliance regulations, you can't eliminate risk. They need to manage risk. The third thing, when I say ERM, is enterprise risk management, is because it expands much larger than IT infrastructure or OT infrastructure, right? Or people or processes. It expands to financial markets, global markets. We're seeing a lot of these tariff situations going on right now. And how do you assess risk and calculate risk for an enterprise and where they should be investing and making moves? And now we're able to do that with the advent or the maturation, I should say, of the ServiceNow integrated data model.
You and I were talking off air a few days ago about the demand that you're seeing, particularly in the first few months of 2025 as we record this, and the opportunity that is available in front of you and the team at Templar Shield. Talk to us a little bit about some of the more recent projects and customers that you've had the pleasure of working with, and where you see the opportunity to continue to grow the business given the increase in demand that's been happening over the past 12 months or so.
Yeah, I think there's two things. There's the customer demand and there's the employee needs that we have here in the firm, or team member needs, I should say. And the first on the employee side, or on the customer side, we have a lot of utilities, a lot of oil and gas companies looking to mature their programs, not only as they did in IT, but in OT, operational technology. So hardware with embedded software on it. You've seen a lot of wildfires across the world, uh, oil spills, right? Operational technology failures. And so with ServiceNow's new solution on operational technology management, you can not only get IT asset visibility, but OT asset visibility. And you can run risk assessments, compliance and control assessments, cybersecurity assessments around all of this now. And we're seeing a unifying, what we call IT OT convergence, a unification of asset management within these large critical infrastructure companies. And so it's been a huge growth spurt. And I think we're at the precipice of another 10 to 20 years investment because most of these OT devices that are deployed in real world environments are 20, 30 years old, most of which were only designed to last 20 to 30 years. So as these new technologies get deployed, we're going to start seeing a huge swing in integrating OT environments with IT. And so that's one area. In banking, we're seeing something different. Um, while companies are migrating from these legacy on-prem GRC platforms to the cloud-based integrated risk management platforms of similar to ServiceNow's offering, we're seeing a huge benefit there. In the OT space, they're using AI and these models to create digital twins. How do we create a digital model of this pump or this motor and stress test it to see where it'll fail in a digital model before it fails in real life? Well, in banking, we're seeing predictive modeling, right? With the global ERM data sources I mentioned a moment ago, these banks, these large financial services and insurance firms can now model where the market is likely going and get very competitive in their offerings while still managing risk. And so when we look into an integrated data model with the capabilities of AI computing, you know, we're seeing a huge upswing. And I think that's going to continue for, again, at least the next decade, if not longer. And the last component on that is governance. AI governance is huge. And so how are companies governing or doing risk or cybersecurity or operational assessments against AI models when there's drift, or incorrect data sources or data poisoning or unauthorized access? Um, a great example is identity and access management programs had human users using IT assets. Well, now you have human users and non-human users using traditional IT assets and AI assets that are accessing data sources. So that type of program is, I think AI governance programs are very early on. You see Anthropic coming out with AI safety level ratings. OpenAI has their preparedness framework. And ServiceNow is releasing May 1st an AI governance solution called AI Control Tower. And we've been helping companies build out programs that can automate. In fact, I've got a book called Governing Giants Enterprise Risk Management's Role in AI Governance being released next Monday. And we're going to be looking forward to sharing that at ServiceNow Knowledge Conference coming up and the IAPP, the International Association of Privacy Professionals annual conference on April 23rd and 24th in Washington, D.C., as that's the only body I'm aware of that offers an AI governance training and certifying course. And so I think the growth is on just the tip of the spear at the moment, and we got a long way to go. And
Yeah.
and lastly, if I may, on the employee side, is what we're seeing is a lot of the competitors we had in the space had recently been acquired by large GSIs and large Big Four. And after several years, a lot of seasoned professionals and peers of mine in my teams are a little unhappy, being a giant or a small cog in a giant machine.
Yeah.
And not to say one way is better or the other. We're just seeing a lot of opportunity for those people to kind of get back to their roots, as they're telling me, and help build programs and coming over to the firm. And so we're actively looking for other people in the market that are looking to get back to a boutique firm that's got a specialized focus in cybersecurity and enterprise risk management.
I'm so glad you brought up that last point about the teammates and growth opportunity because I know it's something that is at front of mind for you that the sheer volume of work you need more people in to help you service the increase in demand and the final point on that would be the unique environment that you have curated over the past 10 plus years to make it such a welcoming environment. You guys have a stellar reputation, almost no churn. And I think for people who are understanding that there's two ways to operate within the ServiceNow ecosystem, you can go broad or you can go super specialized, and there is increasing demand for super specialization. So speaking to an audience of potential future employees, we let them know that there are still boutique expert Navy SEALs type firms who are on the bleeding edge of this development. One final point, I want to make sure we finish on you talked about the book. You're fortunate enough to have a foreword written by somebody who that our audience might be listening to. Do you want to finish on that, and we'll make sure we get the book link plugged when we post the episode?
Sure. I was very fortunate to have gotten ethics committee approval at the United States House of Representatives for one of their seasoned cybersecurity leaders, a deputy CISO out there, wrote the foreword of the book. And a quote I use from her is, she says, "I wish I had this book when I started my AI governance journey." And I think it's just a really good insight to the fact that it's still early on and there's a lot of opportunity in AI governance. Equally as important, I was fortunate enough to get a quote from Bill McDermott on the book that he is recommending this book as a must read for leaders who are in charge of building their AI governance programs at large enterprises and as well as state and federal agencies. And so it's about a 350-page book that is very chapter by chapter meticulously detailed on how companies can build an AI governance program section by section in about 12 months. So with Bill's support, with Addie's support, been very fortunate to get that type of foundation right for the book's publishing that's going to come out here on Monday.
Those endorsements don't come lightly, and it's because you backed it up with incredible work. So Nick, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm delighted we finally got you on the show. I've been looking forward to this one for some time now, and it certainly didn't disappoint. An incredible story from individual contributor to reluctant entrepreneur to now an amazing success story within the ServiceNow community. So we wish you, your team, and everyone at Templar Shield the very best of luck in the year ahead, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the work you guys are doing as well, and wish you the best.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.